Today we are going to discuss articles. Before going to discuss these articles, yesterday and day before yesterday we discussed um, degrees of comparison. Degrees of comparison, two models we have discussed, and I explained yesterday and day before yesterday also we discussed degrees of comparison. Previous class we discussed uh, present continuous tense. We discussed. In this class we are going to discuss. I kept three side headings. First present tense, next degrees of comparison, third one is articles. Today we discuss articles. There are two types of articles in English. Articles, definite article, indefinite article and definite article. Indefinite articles before indefinite articles a, an. Indefinite articles we cannot say definitely. So in such case we can use a or an. If that person, if the thing is not familiar to us, we can use a or an. Definite article, if you use anything, if you know that person, if you know that thing, you can use the is definite articles. See where we can use a and where we can use an, and which nouns before we have to use, which words before we have to use articles. This is very important. See children, most of the students may get confused over consonants and vowels. They think that only this a and an comes before the letters. Exactly not, because this consonant sounds before and vowel sounds before. Articles a or an we must use. See indefinite article, first we will discuss a. Except a, e, I, o, u, except a, e, I, o, u. Except these sounds, you have to very careful. Not before the letters. Before the sounds we have to use an or a. These sounds before sounds. See here, a or a. Here e. Here I. Here o. Here u. Or here also a. Umbrella we are calling not u. We won't pronounce like umbrella, or we are pronouncing a, e, I, o, u. Umbrella also not. See umbrella. This is umbrella. An umbrella. We use an umbrella. Article is these sounds before. Please remember, these sounds before we have to use. Before we have to use an article. An article we must use. If the letter pronounced as a or a, e, I, o, u or a, if these sounds come, if you pronounce these sounds, you can use an article before that word. If you are not using, if these sounds do not come, that because of those words, you have to use a article. See B, C, D, F, G, H, J, K, L M N P Q R S T V W X Y Z. These sounds before you have to use A. These sounds before. See, B, C, D, F, G, H, I is vowel. J, K, L, M, N, P, Q, R, S, T, V, W, X, Y, Z. These sounds before you have to use N. But there are some cases, even though you use these letters, even though that is vowel letter, you should not use an before that letter. If it gives vowel sound, then you have to keep an. If it doesn't give vowel sound, you have to keep a. For example, see 1 rupee, 1 rupee note. See this is, you are not pronouncing here O. This is, you are pronouncing wa. 1 rupee note. 1 rupee note. 1 rupee note. So you have to use here a 1 rupee note, not an 1 rupee note, because you are not pronouncing this as O. This is O letter, but you are pronouncing here wa, 1 rupee note. See, European, even though this is E, but here you are not pronouncing as E, you are pronouncing as U. You are pronouncing as U. So a European, not an European. You have to keep it in your mind. These vowel sounds before, you should remember this. Vowel sounds before, you have to use a. You have to vowel sound, you have to use an. Consonant sounds before, you have to use consonant sounds before, you have to use a. See next. First, I will give some example over indefinite articles a, an, and. There are some exercise seen. After this, we will discuss the article. See children, indefinite article we discuss and now. And see, and comes before a, e, I, o, u sounds. A, e, I, o, u sounds before and comes. And articles a. It is starting with a, so we have to use here and. Here arrow also, see, sound is a sound, so you can use an. Enemy, a, here also a sound, enemy, you can use an article. I you can use island. Pronunciation is Iceland, not island. Island is also vowel sound, you can use an. An important question, an important question. Next, an Indian, an Indian, E, A, E, I, O, U. See, here we are pronouncing island, here we are pronouncing India. E, A, E, I, O, U. Sounds, U sound or A sound. Here one letter pronounced as differently. Here we are pronouncing as I, we are pronouncing as E, we are pronouncing as E. Here we are pronouncing important. Here important. Important question. An important question. An orange. An orange. Pronouncing orange. Pronouncing as orange. Before we have to use an order. Here also order. Onion. Before also you have to use an here ox, here umbrella, here also an umpire. Only A, E, I, O, U letters before you have to use an article. You have to fix in your mind. You fix in your mind that A, E, I, O, U sounds before you have to use an. If you use another sound, consonant sound, you have to use A. See, there are some exceptional cases. Even though the letter is consonant, but we pronounce as vowel. See here. Here this letter is F. Here A, E, I, O, U letters, there is no F. F is consonant letter. Please remember, listen carefully. F is consonant letter, but sound is an F. A. We are pronouncing F. This is A. So an FIR. Next, and H is also comes under consonant. You have to use here H, A, and HMT watch. You are pronouncing as HMT watch. Here this is an R. H is silent, so an R you have to use. H is silent here, so based on the pronunciation we have to use an. However, you should not pronounce. If you pronounce however, an will not come. If you pronounce as R, then an will come. Honor not. Here also H is silent. Honor an honor. Next, an LLB student. This is letter consonant, but sound is vowel. So you have to use here an LLB student. If you use only LLB, you have to use the LLB because that is abbreviation. Abbreviations before you have to use the definitely. LIC, Life Insurance Corporation of India, LIC. If there is no agent, you have to use the LIC, Life Insurance Corporation. If there is an agent, you have to use an LIC agent. He is an LIC, an L, A sound. So we have to use here an LIC agent. An MP candidate, MLA candidate. If you use candidate after MP, after MLA, you have to use an MLA and MP. An MP candidate and MLA candidate you have to use. If there is no candidate, you have to use the MP, the MLA, member of Legislative Assembly, member of parliament. Abbreviations before you must use the if after MP or MLA. If you find candidate, you have to write an MP and MLA. Children, please remember this. MCA, MA, NCC. See here, MCA student, M here A sound, M, an MCA student, an MA student, an NCC student. If those are abbreviations, Master of Arts, MCA and NCC, these are abbreviations. If you find student after MCA, after MA, after NCC, you have to write an MA student, an MCA student, an NCC student. You have to remember that sound, not the letter. Next, RTC bus, RRB exam, SSC exam. RTC, sound. So you have to use an RTC bus, an RRB exam, and SSC exam. And SS Rajmouli movies, film, and SS Rajmouli, NSS, and SS Rajmouli. This S, A sound. So that's why in every movie, after completing the movie, he keeps the stamp on the picture, and SSC and SS Rajmouli presents. NSS, an SSC exam, an RRB exam. Suppose if you find if there is no Rajmouli, if that is abbreviation, you have to use the SSC, the RRB if there is no exam, the RTC also. If there is no bus, you have to write RTC. Simply, if that is abbreviation, you have to write the. If there is something after the abbreviation, RTC bus, SSC exam, next MP candidate, MLA candidate, you have to write an article. Children, please remember this. If you know this and where to use and how to use, remaining all are easy. At the same time, see, some articles before, some vowel sounds, vowel letters before, you have to use A sound. See, I will tell you after this indefinite article and. Children, remember carefully, only letters before and will come. Only letters, not the sounds. See children, indefinite article A. Now, indefinite article A, sounds before, consonant sounds before, you have to use here A. A boy, a dog, a cat, a hut, a bottle, a kite, a king, a lorry, a lion, a zebra, These are consonant sounds. Consonant sounds before you have to use A. Consonant sounds before you have to use A. Here, king also ka sound, so you have to use A. And coming to note here, even some vowel sounds pronounced as consonants. Vowel sounds produced as consonant sounds. Here this is vowel, but sound is European. I told already, European U sound. So this is a European. See, I told this one also, one-eyed man or 1 rupee note, here you have to use A European, A 1 rupee note, A one-eyed man, A one-day match, A euro. These sounds before, you have to keep it in your mind, sounds, not the letter. Vowel sounds and consonant sounds. Vowel sounds before and comes, and consonant sounds before A comes. See, these are the definite article. Indefinite articles. Now we are going to discuss second one, definite article. This is very important. Before going to definite articles, see, there are some fixed phrases. I want a yellow saree. I want a yellow saree. A means here A or an represents one. A book means one book. A chair means one chair. An apple, not an apple. I told already. An apple. If you pronounce apple, this apple, ya sound, apple, and will not come, A will come. It is an apple. See, if you pronounce an apple, an will come. An apple, or if you pronounce apple, if you pronounce apple, A will come. If you pronounce an apple, that is apple, not apple. This is wrong. This is right. That is right. An apple. Next, fixed phrases are there. Go for a walk. You have to. You should not use go for the walk. Go for a walk. Don't make a noise. Don't make a call. Please wait for a while. Don't be in a hurry. These are fixed phrases. You have to use only A for a long time. Don't fast in a hurry. These cases we have to use fixed phrases. We have to use A. Go for a walk. Don't make a noise. Don't make a call. These are fixed phrases. We have to use only A sound. See, in your textbook articles are there. Articles, I told you already how to use article, page number 44. See, A and an already completed. Now we are going to discuss the article. When we have to use the article before a common noun which is mentioned for the second time. I saw a dog. The dog was barking. I saw a dog. Dog is common noun. How can you say that dog is common noun? Because every dog has its own name. Pet names are there. That is their breeds are there. They have their name is different. But here dog is common for all dogs. I saw a dog. First he saw a dog. That dog he didn't know before. Now after introducing the dog, you have to use the dog was barking. First you saw the dog. About the dog you don't know about the dog. But after knowing the dog, after you familiar to the dog, you should use the. I saw once upon a time there is a king lived in the forest. Suppose if you want to say any story, once upon a time there was a king lived in the forest. Suppose once there was a king. He had four sons. The king gave four sticks to the four four sons. The king, once the king is introduced to you, you have to use the. If the king, you don't know the king, you have to use only a. Once the king is familiar to you, once the king is introduced to you, you have to use the article. I saw a dog, the dog was barking. The dog was barking. See, I saw a dog. Before the dog, you don't know. After knowing the dog is introduced. So, second time, if at all you want to use the article, you have to use the article. Before superlative adjectives, I told in degrees of comparison. Superlative degree, before you have to use the article. By seeing the and est form, you can easily identify that is superlative degree. Next, before superlative adjectives, the largest, the best, the smallest, the most beautiful girl, the most useful thing. Next, the smallest, the biggest, the richest. You have to use the before superlative adjectives. Next, before ordinal numbers, ordinals and cardinal numbers are there. Ordinal numbers before the first, the second, the 21st century. Ordinal number, the 21st century, the 11th century, the 10th century. Ordinal numbers, if you use 10, you should not use the article. If you use ordinal numbers, first, second, third, you have to use the article. Before the names of musical instruments, you have to keep it in your mind, all these things, because there are many cases. Only he mentioned 7, but there are many cases where you have to use the articles. See, before the names of musical instruments, names of all musical instruments, you have to use the article. See here, the guitar, the violin, the guitar and the tabla. These are the musical instruments. All musical instruments. The flute, you can use the article before the musical instruments. Before you have to use the article. Before fifth one, before a noun, when we mean something in particular. See, something in particular. See, Raman effect. Suppose proper nouns, before proper nouns, we should not use any article. We should not use any article. Proper nouns before. Common nouns before we can use. First I told, first one, I saw a dog. The dog was barking. You can use. But in proper nouns before, generally proper nouns before, we should not use any article. If at all you want to specify the name, if at all you want to say particularly that name, you have to use the article. The Raman effect, the TV, the radio, these are the Raman effect. The Raman effect is proper. Raman is proper noun. So here particularly he is saying, that's why you can use the TV and the radio. These are before. If you want to say particularly the radio or TV, you can use the article. Before, if at all you want to say particularly. If you use generally, you should not use the article. I brought a radio yesterday. That means that radio was not working. The radio is not working. You can use the before, if at all you want to see For example, two persons are coming. One is coming from Vijayanaram and one is coming from Srikakulam to our school. Suppose their names are same. Their names are John. Suppose if the man is coming from Vijayanaram, his name also John, and at the same time the man is coming from Srikakulam, his name also John. The John is coming from Srikakulam is very good very good writer. Suppose the John, you wanted to say particularly that person. That's why you need to use the article before the John. And in particular cases you have to use the, if you use generally, you should not use the children. Next, the sun, the moon, the earth, the unique things, unique only. There is no other thing like that. Suppose earth is there or moon is there, sun is there. There is no equal to the sun, there is no equal to the earth, there is no equal to the moon. So this type of the Jupiter, the Neptune, these all we have to use, because those are unique. There is no similar thing like the earth. There is no second earth in this universe. It may be there in the universe, but we don't know. We don't know. That's why we have to use the sun, the moon, the earth, the sky, and the universe. Before the names of awards, before the Nobel Prize, the Bharat Ratna, the Padma Vibhushan names before, we can use the article before. Next, group of mountains, group of the Himalayas, the Aravallis, the Andes, group of ranges. Ranges before you have to use the article. The Aravalli mountains, the Himalaya mountains, the Andes mountains, you have to use that. But if at all you want to use single mountain, Everest, the Everest you should not use. Everest is the highest peak in the world. Everest, Kilimanjaro, these are, if at all you want to use, you should not, those are proper nouns. Before, you should not use the article before. Next, group of islands, also you can use the Andamans, the Lakshadweep, the Indonesia island, Lakshadweep islands, and Lakshadweep Andaman islands. Before you can use the articles. Next, you see children, abbreviations I told already. Abbreviations, the USA, United States of America, CBI, Central Bureau of Investigation, you have to use before. MP, the MP, member of MP, member of Parliament, you have to use the MP. If you use the MP candidate, then you have to use an MP candidate. I hope you have understood. The difference between the MP and an MP candidate. An MP candidate, you see this difference. Next, NABARD. See acronyms. The suppose NABARD. This is abbreviation, but we can pronounce this word USA. We cannot pronounce that word. This is abbreviation. This is also abbreviation, but we can pronounce this NABARD. We cannot pronounce like a word. The abbreviation which we pronounce, we can call those are acronyms. Acronyms. The abbreviation which we pronounce, we can call those are acronyms. This is the NABARD. We can use the NABARD and the USA. Next, whatever abbreviations those abbreviations and IPS and IAS and IAS candidate and IPS candidate. The IAS, the IPS, only the abbreviations before you have to use. This is about this is about articles, children. We will discuss next class, online classes, revision online class. You have to thorough with your books, complete your CWs and homeworks. If you did not complete. Until then, have a good day. See you all.